everyone has like setbacks in this sport, whether it's injuries or like some mental struggles or whatever. And it's like what really is going to define you is how well you can deal with those and how well you can move on from those and just keep showing up and keep putting in the work and doing what's right. And I think that was a good example of me doing that in my career. Like it ended up being this great opportunity, and it did result in the best year of running of my life. So it all ended up working out pretty well for me, luckily.
That's a running roll, Blackall, and he takes the win.
Joining me today is Morgan McDonald, 4 times NCAA champion, professional Under Armour athlete, and rising YouTube star.
Thanks for having me, man. It's good to be here.
So basically, this episode, the principle of it is to have a sit down and chat with professional athletes about our experiences in the industry, what it's like to be a professional athlete, the highs, the lows, and the bits in between, really. Morgan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So where do I start? Pretty much, I'm from Sydney, Australia. I've been running since I was a young boy, about 8 years old. And I had some good success in Australia growing up. And then I came over to the States where I went to college. I went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I was there for 5 years. And in my fifth year, I would manage to win 4 NCAA titles, and I did pretty well. So then I was lucky enough to sign a sponsorship with Under Armour. And so now I'm a professional runner with Under Armour, and I live in Boulder, Colorado. I train with a group called Team Boss, which is pretty awesome. And yeah, I'm living the dream. Pro runner, man. It's a pretty good lifestyle.
Yeah, so I've heard that actually, like, you started out kind of, as you said, at school in back in Australia, and you, from what I've heard, you've won the under 12s, under 14s, under 16s, under 18s national cross country championships, as well as in your under 20s, you actually also kind of raced for your country as well, 16 years of age and 18 years of age. What did it feel like for you when you were 16 years of age and like you were able to represent your country for the first time?
Yeah, man, that was crazy. I mean, obviously, growing up, like representing Australia is like your biggest dream. So when I got to do that for the first time when I was 16, which was at World Cross Country, I was in the junior race. The race was in Poland in Big Gosh. It was amazing, man. It felt it was such a crazy experience, to be honest. It was so cool. But yeah, no, I was lucky. Like growing up, I had a good amount of success, just kind of based off like kind of raw talent. And then I would train a little bit, but I'd also like play a lot of soccer and do other stuff. And then it was when I was about 16 before I made that first team that I really like committed to running, and I started taking it more seriously and I started training more. I remember that's when I started my first training diary at that age, and like I wrote on the first page, I wrote out like I'm starting this training diary because I want to like take it more seriously. I want to start tracking my progress. So that was a kind of a big turning point for me. And then yeah, I went on to do pretty well from that, and yeah, like make there's Australian junior teams and stuff, which really that had a big impact on me. Like that, those were some awesome experiences that I still remember today. But yeah, I was lucky. I had a pretty good junior career back in Australia.
As a junior, you said like starting your training diary was a big part of that. What would you suggest for someone that's just starting out in running and really wanting to push themselves to the next level? What did you take note of in your diary and kind of talk about, really?
Yeah, so there's a few things that I would recommend to younger kids. Um, Looking at the training diary, I I knew that I wanted to try to be a pro runner. Like that was my dream back when I was 15, 16. And so I knew that like I was watching these pro runners and I would see that like kind of like the age when they would peak would be like around 28 or 30. So in my head, that's when I wanted to be like, that's what I was working towards even from that young age, like that's what I have been kind of tracking my progress is towards like getting to like my peak when I'm kind of that older age. So I had this like long-term mindset, which I think really helped me along the way because like I didn't train that hard when I was 15, 16. Like I trained hard, but compared to what some kids do, it wasn't like the crazy stuff in the world. And I think that did end up helping me quite a lot. And, I can't really take credit for that kind of mindset. I was so lucky. This is probably the biggest piece of advice that I would give to kids kind of looking to try to get better and better is like surround yourself with the right people, with good people. I was so lucky. I had all these like great people around me in my training squad and like mentors and stuff. And it was because of them, I think I was able to have this kind of mindset, which I think was very helpful to me, like this longer term mindset. So I think having the right people around me was probably the biggest thing. And that's always kind of been the biggest thing. It still is today. And then the other thing, which I always say, is just like to have fun with it, especially when you're young, because, you know, if you're not enjoying it, then it's never going to work out. At the end of the day, it's just running, and it takes a lot of personal, dedication to it to do it at the highest level. So if you don't really enjoy it, from an individual level, like it's just not going to happen. So just enjoying it and not putting too much pressure at a young age, like you see all the time. Obviously, there's kids who, when they're 16, they're doing these crazy, crazy things, and like everyone wants to do that. But then you also see these other guys who take like Stuart McSwain, for example, who's now running 3:30 and he's going to run under 13 minutes for 5K. He was a good junior, but he wasn't like the best in the world. So there's just so many different paths. But the one constant between all these people that end up having success is, dedication and enjoyment.
When you said about making it not a chore, and kind of having fun with it, is there anything that you do to have fun with running? And especially now you're like a professional athlete, like it's your job. So like,
Yeah.
is there ways that you, especially like during lockdown now, like with the coronavirus pandemic, is there ways that you kind of motivate yourself to keep it fun and like switch it up a bit?
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good question, because definitely when you're a pro runner and it becomes more and more serious, like some of those fun aspects can definitely be taken away. Like that's kind of reality when you get to this top level. Like it's still very funny. You still get as much out of it. I mean, you still get a lot out of it, but when you're just running like your club championships when you're a young kid, like that's so much fun. It's just no pressure and stuff. So it does get more difficult, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, because depending on like what your values are and what you really get out of it, um, for me personally, I want to try to be as good as I can be, and I want to be one of the best in the world. And that is something that drives me and motivates me, and I do enjoy it. So, kind of like I know that, like, in order to achieve those things, like, you need to take on a certain amount of pressure or like anxiety or whatever it is. So, yeah, like, that's probably the biggest thing that helps me to continue enjoying it, is feeling like I'm every day like working towards these bigger goals that I have of trying to be as good as I can be. And yeah, I really personally get a lot out of that. Like that drives me a lot. But then there are it doesn't, like, it's not always easy, it's
Yeah.
still sometimes I'm feeling kind of lazy and all that, but there's other things you can do. And like for me, again, just having good people around you to go with runs, like, and it's a special thing just to like be able to go on like a 60-minute run with your friend and just have a chat, like that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Doing workouts or sessions with your friends is pretty awesome as well, pushing each other. So there are a lot of different things, and also like having a good routine and stuff helps a lot with the staying motivated and all that. I think that makes it a lot easier. You just don't have to think as much. So yeah, those are the few of the things that I think help out a lot with that in terms of the motivation and enjoyment factors.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's you actually like such an inspiration for me. And I must say, I've been looking recently, and 2019 was definitely your year. Finishing first place in the NCAA cross country, NCAA indoor 3K, 5K, as well as was it the outdoor 5K as well? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's
And then also like you like finished first place in some of the kind of Big Ten conferences as well. So um, I saw that in 2018 you kind of had like a relatively quiet year. I think you only ran one like 5K outdoor race. So how did you
hmm
get from was there something going on there? Were you injured, or what kind of happened from being there to then winning the four NCAA champ titles?
yeah. No, it is a good question again, because it's like it's hard when people just see the results to really know what exactly is going on behind the scenes for the individual. And 2018 was a year where I actually feel like I took some big steps forwards, even though they weren't necessarily reflected in my results. So pretty much my year played out. I went back to Australia at the beginning to compete in the national 5K, because I wanted to do the com games for Australia. It was a home com games, and that seemed like something really special. My coach at Wisconsin, Mick, let me go do that, which was awesome. And so I actually won nationals in February, the start of February that year, which was like a huge, big race for me. That was a great 5K. I was in the shape of my life and stuff. But then a couple of weeks later, I got injured, and I had this kind of like a strain in my tib post in my calf, and I just did not manage it well at all. Because I just honestly, that was the first time I'd ever had an injury like that, and I just didn't know what I was doing. So,
Yeah.
and also like I was in Australia, like I was away from my coach, I was away from my normal, uh, like physio and stuff that I see. So I didn't know what to do honestly, and so I tried to run on that for a long time, and it just didn't work out well at all. So then I had a pretty average result at the games, unfortunately. And then I came back to the US and I took like 3 weeks off just to let it fully recover. I had to race, the school made me race in the conference, Big Ten conference 5K outdoors just because I had to. And I didn't do very well, obviously. I had me, I just take the time off.
I mean, 14 minutes 45 seconds is a sick time. Like,
Yeah,
you're
but
so modest.
no, but it is what it is. Yeah, that was that. And then after that, it was like, all right, well, I'm in this kind of like weird spot where I'm obviously feel like I got really good this year, but then I kind of lost it all due to injury, which sucks. But then it was like, all right, let's pick up the pieces and like um, just start working towards the next one. And the next one was the Nationals cross country. So it turned out that I actually had like this massive training block leading into that, which I think was one of the biggest things that helped me kind of take those jumps to get better and better to be able to win it. So, in a way, like that injury and everything kind of worked out in my favor a bit, which is like, that's kind of how I always look at it. It's like everyone has like setbacks in this sport, whether it's injuries or like some mental struggles or whatever. And it's like, what really is going to define you is how well you can deal with those and how well you can move on from those and just keep showing up and keep putting in the work and doing what's right. And I think that was a good example of me doing that in my career. Like it ended up being this great opportunity, and it did result in the best year of running of my life. So it all ended up working out pretty well for me, luckily.
Hi guys, so I really hope you enjoyed that video. There's 2 more episodes to come out, so make sure you subscribe down below and give this video a big thumbs up. Also go and subscribe to Morgan's channel. His link is in the description as well. See you soon.